Welcome to Thrive in Sales, the sales training and thriving podcast. Hi, I'm Neeraj. I'm an interactive sales trainer and a one-to-one coach. I get results for small businesses and deliver training to large corporates like Barclays, NatWest, and Sainsbury's. I'm the author of 2 Amazon best-selling books.
And I'm Keith. I've sold technology services around the world, and I was responsible for closing and sales leading a software outsourcing contract worth well over $1 billion. I'm now a sales coach and a visiting lecturer at Aston Business School.
Now, every week we'll be sharing proven strategies to help you generate more sales. Plus, we'll bring in well-being experts onto the show to give you the knowledge, strategies, and takeaways you need to thrive in sales. And this week's topic is about selling in quiet times. And our special guest is Jacqui Kemp. Now, Jacqui trained as a therapist in 2008. She focuses on management behaviors to help you get the best for your teams, and mental health awareness and mental health first aid for all staff. Jacqui, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, Neeraj. Hi, Keith. How are you both?
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Great.
Just to all our listeners, to give you an image, today is one of the most beautiful days of the year. The sun is shining. Jacqui's in a beautiful, colorful skirt. Keith and I are wearing bright blue. It is a stunning day. First thing Monday morning podcast. Just imagine that. Perfect way to start the week.
Yeah, my shirt matches the sky.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say. So it's not a cloud in sight. Beautiful, beautiful. I hope it is when you're listening to this too.
So I've had a lot of my coaching clients are slowly going back to work now. Many have been in lockdown for a few months, and it's, even though people are going back to work, it's still going to be quite tough selling. And summer is always tough. Then of course you have Christmas, which is very tough to sell. January is tough to sell. Bank holidays, it's very hard getting hold of people, and this is going to affect your mental health in quite a big way. So Jacqui, can you tell us, whenever we're trying to sell when times are quiet or when times are tough, it's going to affect our mental health. What can we best do to either prepare for it or deal with it?
Well, it's interesting because I think at the moment it's been hard to see this coming from March. We didn't know this was coming, but normally we know when bank holidays are coming. We know when we're coming into the school holiday season. We know when we're going to have tough times selling. So we need to prepare for that as much as possible. And we need to be aware of what we can do within ourselves to change our approach and to change our expectations and reset our expectations. I think if we enter into these quiet periods expecting it to be tough, so we know it's going to be tough, but also let ourselves off the hook and give ourselves permission and reset our expectations of ourselves. Because if we're going along thinking, well, it should be like it was in February, then we're going to struggle because it's nothing like it was in February.
I think
what can we do then? Sorry, go ahead, Keith. You're going to say.
I think also, just to be a little bit philosophical, if we try to get back to February, we're actually not taking advantage of the opportunities that the last 3-4 months have given us as business owners, business managers, as coaches, given our people as employees opportunities to rethink. It's a unique time in history, I would argue. A whole opportunity to rethink how we go about things. Now, of course, there are certain fundamentals in business. Got to make a profit, and we need enough money in the bank at the end of the day to pay all the staff and all of those sort of business fundamentals. But there's no reason that should change. But the way that we go about it, I do believe we can, even taking into account some of these difficult periods, and as Jacqui just said, we've got plenty of notice of when they're happening. So we should be able to just create a better world for ourselves. So I'm really keen to focus on.
I think it's really important that we adapt to whatever the current situation is, and we don't hold on to how we believe things should be. So even going into the coronavirus, I saw lots of people holding on to how things should be and not moving and adapting with the times. So again, everything is changing on such a regular basis at the moment that we have to be prepared to adapt. And if we don't, that's where we will struggle with our mental health, because we're holding on to what we believe should be happening as opposed to adapting to what currently is happening.
And how do we do that, Jacqui? Because I see this happening a lot in sales. So many men my age are becoming irrelevant in sales because they will not adapt to social media. They will not, do the things they just won't adapt with the times. And this actually transfers perfectly to what's happening now, where people are not adapting. So how do we do that? It's very easy to say, change our approach and expectations. And I agree with you, by the way. But that's a very hard thing to do. It's like when you speak to someone who's overweight saying, look, stop taking sugar. They're not going to stop taking sugar. They know they should, but they can't. So how do you actually adapt to these difficult times? What do you need to do?
You need to focus on the things that you can change. And I think a lot of people spend a lot of time focusing on whatever they see the issue is, the bigger picture. And I think it was Stephen Covey in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said about the circle of concern and the circle of influence. And the circle of concern is the things that concern you, but you can't change, you can't do anything about. Circle of influence, that's what you can do something about. And I saw very early days, lots of people with coronavirus coming in were looking at the virus, but we're not in a position to change the virus. What we are in a position to do is to change our approach to the impact that the virus is having on our businesses. And the people who could do that quickly, when we look at, so what can I influence, what can I change, that's where we then get through and we come out stronger, rather than holding on to the past and to what we believe should be happening. And then we can be healthier and stronger and more resilient. And the more we look at those things, then the better we are.
And this podcast is a very example of that. And I would just say that Niraj and I have been talking about this for 18 months. It was the event coming about, the COVID event coming about, that kind of was the catalyst. Well, okay, now we're going to do it, and beyond. So we're still able to meet, albeit virtually, and have high gain discussions with guests such as yourself, Jacqui. But we don't need to travel anywhere. We are adapting to our environment, and I'm really pleased with the number of businesses that are still doing that. And to Niraj's previous point, there are some that just won't. We used to refer to those as Luddites, and actually they're going to have the toughest time of all. And I do believe that senior management have a role to play in all of this. And because change, if you're in a larger organization, change comes from the top downwards. That's where we need to sponsor it from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, early days in my business is all about training, and it's all about being with people in a classroom environment or a one-to-one environment. So that just died a death in March. Rather than thinking, oh, I can't do that, I have had to adapt. I've had to go and get myself trained on delivering online training, and then adapt and deliver programs of training that people want. Because again, I was doing management training that's based on when you're all in the same office and you're working together. That's not the world of management anymore. So I've had to develop training that looks at what the new world of management is, or that looks at the impact of the current situation on our mental health, and then deliver that online. So it's really important that we are constantly adapting and evolving. And the coronavirus situation is evolving on a daily basis, and we've got to evolve as well. So you're right to say about, you were talking about this for 18 months. I was talking for 18 months about doing online training as well. And it's forced an issue. And it's created opportunities if we look and find those opportunities. And I think it's really important for people to roll with the change and to see where it takes them. At the same time, it's important to notice that this will have a massive impact on people's mental health and well-being. even if you are rolling with the changes, you will probably have got to a point somewhere where you felt angry that you couldn't do something, or it's not as easy as it used to be, or the frustration of the internet falling over with everybody being on the internet at the same time, or you get a real low point because you can't see family, you can't see friends, and that's okay. Those are normal emotions that we are going to experience. And what I see a lot of is people are trying to resist those emotions. And when you resist emotion, it just adds another level of effort into actually pulling yourself out of bed and giving yourself some motivation to move through. Whereas if you just accept today is, if I'm having a down day, I'm having a down day. And that's okay. And tomorrow will probably be different. But what can I do right here, right now to lift this mood? Instead of hitting myself over the head with, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I could have done that better, or whatever it is that's going on.
That's very true. I understand that from you trained as a therapist in 2008, and of course 2008 there was a big recession.
Yep.
So it must have been quite difficult for you to sell. And if so, what did you do? What were the kind of the traits and the tips that you learned in terms of better selling during quiet times?
It was interesting because I actually gave up my job as an HR manager in 2009 to set up as a therapist and go into business. So still in the recession, but it was really what I was passionate about. And it was very much trial and error because it was, I'd never run a therapy business before. I'd run a business, but not a therapy business. So it was find out what people want, what people need, and then give it to them and tell them that I'm giving it to them. Because with the best will in the world, if you're not out there selling and marketing, then you can have the best product. No one's going to buy it because they don't know it exists. But I did feel very strongly that because I was an HR manager and doing the therapy, that I couldn't possibly do the two things side by side because, lots of people are actually impacted mentally by things that go on in HR. One of the last projects I did was around redundancies. So I recognized the impact I was having on people. And, but it's really important that you can focus on what people want. So rather than think about this is what I've got to give, it's about finding out what people want and then making sure that you can package it in a way that they understand and make it easy for people to buy. So I think telling people how to get in touch, being available for people, and using as many different approaches as possible. I mean, there are more approaches to connect with your audience now than there were in 2008, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like that. Find out what people want and package it in a way that they understand. That is so important. So many people send out the same proposals all the time to people. I don't understand why. I have certain clients like accountants and solicitors, for example, who are verbal. They want things written down in detail. Whereas people I've spoken to, like designers or architects or visual people, they don't want that. They want visuals of the journey they're going to go on and visuals of their success. And a lot of people, you brought up a very interesting point. A lot of people do not understand that. And it's really important. It's a different conversation, but it's important people understand to package something in a way that somebody understands. I'm coaching a 22-year-old at the moment. I don't communicate with her by email. I communicate with her by WhatsApp. That is how we talk, which is fascinating. And I've never, I've used it now and again, of course, WhatsApp, but I don't normally communicate with clients that way. I use the phone, but she never picks up the phone ever. I mean, it's incredible. She doesn't pick up the phone. So it's very, very important to communicate to people according to what's right for them. I love that. What are your thoughts on that, Keith?
Yeah, I think the one thing I've learned about about human beings over the last 30 years of being in business is that how I want to communicate, that's just me, is how they receive information in a way that gets me what I want, which is business, and gives them what they want, which is some degree of value creation for their business. And so, the day you can figure out what someone's preferred mode of communication is. And do you know what I do? I do something quite radical, which is I actually ask people, rather than me guessing, rather than guessing. I'll actually say, particularly now where we're starting to work with, you just mentioned it, 3 generations of people under the same roof. It's possible to have 3 generations of different people because we're all living longer, we're working longer. People, as you mentioned about your dad earlier on, Niraj, just now, people of a certain generation prefer to be communicated with in a certain way, as King George V probably did with his people. People aged 22 don't want to talk. Probably want to send a transactional text message or WhatsApp or WeChat or whatever it is that people want to do. So I ask them, what's your preferred method of communication? But also, I form what I call an upfront contract, which is, okay, I don't mind adapting to what you're going to do, but my expectation is that I'm not going to get my time wasted. That we are going to do stuff, and this is going to work for you, and that we're going to move forward to get to a closure of a deal, or rolling out a program, or whatever it happens to be. So I kind of, and I don't apologise for that. I'm quite upfront about that, and I think people appreciate, particularly in times like this, people appreciate really clear debate and communication needs, if you like.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be clear on what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, and then do it and follow through. And people do, like you say, Keith, people appreciate that upfront honesty and knowing where they stand. Otherwise, they're just trying to read between the lines. And it kind of reminds me of when I was in HR and I went over to Sweden to visit the Swedish team and had to interview everyone. And I'd read a book called Swedishness, and it was very thin. And it just said they use as few words as possible, say exactly what they need to say, no more than that. Whenever I emailed them, I read my email, harvested 50% of the words and sent it. When I went out there, they said, we really like you because you say exactly what you mean and no more. I was like, yeah, well, I read this book. And they said, we like that book. But it's so important. We need a bit more of that in the UK, where we're just upfront and honest.
But you took time to understand your customer and the way that they communicate, and that's the lesson, to understand the customer and what they need.
Understand what's needed. Yeah,
I like that.
One thing you said earlier, which is when you set your business up, it's really important to keep selling and marketing. So, when the times are quiet, what surprises me is how many people slow down, or in many cases actually stop. Think, I'm not going to market, times are tough, I'll pick up when times are busy, which is the worst thing you can do. So talk to me, can you tell me 1 or 2 examples of the kind of selling or marketing you do that works really well when times are quiet?
Yeah, well, what I did when coronavirus first hit, and I'd done my research into delivering the online training and adapted, I came out with some headlines of what I thought would land well with my clients. So then sent out a newsletter, put on LinkedIn, connected with others who do similar stuff and commented on what they were up to on LinkedIn, and just having that presence. And off the back of that, I had a few people who I'd never worked with before, but they had received my newsletter in the past. I don't even know if they'd opened it in the past, but it just landed at the right time and it had the right language. And I was talking about the impact that the current situation is having on people and having on teams, and just talking about what training I could provide. And from that, I've managed to pick up new clients. So even in a tough situation like coronavirus, you can pick up new clients. It's just you need to be talking about what they want and what's impacting them right here, right now. So rather than talking about the old stuff I was doing, I was talking about the impact of coronavirus on managers and their ability to manage, but also on individuals and their mental health and how they were coping. And equally, coming through it, we're in a different situation now. Now I can see we're in a situation where people are scared of coming out of lockdown, where people don't necessarily want to go back to the old work environment because they're going to be exposed to this virus that nobody can see, or that fear factor. And some of that comes from putting so much emphasis on the things that we can't control. So we can't control the virus, but we've been filled with so much information and misinformation about the virus that it's fed our fight or flight response. And fight or flight or freeze is only supposed to exist for a very short period of time when we're in real danger of death from something external, and we either fight that danger or run from the danger, or vaguely we freeze and the danger passes. Coronavirus and lockdown in particular has forced us into freeze, and that keeps those unhealthy hormones running around our bodies, and we're not expelling the hormones, we're not getting rid of it.
That's a very, very good point. Thank you. Keith, I know that you started, I see you doing webinars consistently. Tell me a bit more about how you've adapted your selling and marketing to quiet times.
Yeah, I think, well, on the webinars thing, I had this I don't often get them. I've probably had 3 in my life, but I was driving down the M6 about 2-3 years ago when I first started my coaching business, and after about 3 months, I have a typical review, and I figured out I'm giving more money to energy companies than I am spending on my marketing effort, and that's got to stop. So I've trained my client base, if you like, to do stuff. And I've got clients I've never even met. I'm really comfortable with that, and I'll tell you what, they're comfortable about it as well, as importantly. So so I've kind of built the business in that vein. And what do I do to manage the quiet times? Well, as we said earlier in the show, recognize when they're going to be happening, when there's some things that you can't control, and we understand that. And the secret is understanding what you can and what you can't control. But also, so we're going to very rapidly get onto this nasty subject of discounting. What can you do to win? Because that's what people always do. You discount to encourage, or do you stand firm, take some other approach? I'm very much a fan of, actually, I'm quite a pragmatist in that what I don't want to do is waste time, because that's the biggest discount of all, and I don't like doing that at all. So yes, and I love negotiating as well. So to me, that's an enjoyable part of business. So we can have that conversation, but only if it gets me to where I need to be with my business, and it suits everyone else in the room, the virtual room in this case. But also thinking ahead of time, over communicating, promoting, as Jacqui just said, making sure you've got that presence that even if it's a quiet time, people are still aware that you're around, and they will come to you. There's a stat, isn't there, that 70% of all research is done by the time they even get to talk to people like us, to business owners.
It's very true.
Much of their research is already done by that point. So yeah, absolutely.
That's a great point. I would simply add what you both said, I agree with. And I would simply add using the phone is so important. I believe in the phone anyway, but I'm spending more time on the phone talking to clients now, because by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they're getting bored of Zoom because they're doing webinars, they have team meetings, and they just have spent 5 or 6 hours staring at a screen. And I find that is the ideal time to pick up the phone and speak to them. So look, a very, very important part of sales training is not just what we learn, it's the action points we take. And I've written down some great notes here that have been shared in today's episode. So change our approach and change our expectations. Focus on what you can change. Find out what people want and package it in a way that they can understand. Your example of Swedishness was wonderful. I really like that too. Take the time to understand your customer. When times are quiet, keep selling, keep marketing, and look at the different ways of communicating with people. Keith, what else would you add to that, please?
Yeah, well, in terms of change and adapt, I think this is where senior management need to come into the frame, and and get with the program, and some of that leadership by example. For instance, not demanding that people still come into work, showing by example that they can work from home as an example. I think that's vitally important.
Fantastic. Jacqui, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge. We always love having guests in a show like you, because you're always sharing things we had never thought about, and hopefully our listeners will never have thought about either. What's the best way for people to communicate and contact you?
Okay, well, to contact me, the easiest way at the moment is by mobile. So as you say, give us a call, because fed up with Zoom. So my mobile is 07880 776 756, or my website is yourpeoplepotential.co.uk, and my email address will be on there.
Lovely. And just to let you know, Jacqui Kemp, Jacqui is spelled Jacqui, and Kemp is Kemp. It's important I get your spelling right, because people misspell my name all the time.
I bet they do,
Throws everybody off.
If
you have any questions or any points you want to raise in the show, or if you want to hire Neeraj and Keith for future training, please email us at hello@thriveinsales.com. We'd love to hear from you. And please subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
This episode is brought to you by Monkey Pants Productions, who are a podcast production company helping businesses enter the world of podcasting through bespoke workshops, professional standard recordings. And for more information, you can email pete@monkeypantsproductions.co.uk.
Now, Keith and I are big fans of the TV show Frasier. So until next week, we are wishing you
good sales,
mental health. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.